Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.
I never, ever thought I would open a business for myself. And then I had a baby.
Meet Patrice Mousseau, founder of Satya Organics, a skincare company created for people with skin issues, powered by Shopify.
When Esme was about 8 months old, she developed eczema. The doctor's only option to me was steroid creams. I just started experimenting in my kitchen crock pot. I actually found something that cleared her eczema up in 2 days. After about a year or so of just selling it out of my kitchen window, I decided to make a business out of it. Shopify templates are fantastic, and their customer service is absolutely stellar. You can buy Satya online, you can buy it in stores, you can buy it in our social channels, and that's all made possible by Shopify.
When you're ready to share your business with the world, grow it on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform trusted by millions of businesses like Satya. Get a free 14-day trial at shopify.com/free22 and start selling wherever your customers are with easy-to-use tools and friendly 24/7 support. Go to shopify.com/free22. Shopify.com/free22.
Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
Great Redeemer, God of grace.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard. Whew, this is going to be a good one today. I'm so excited. I really am excited. It's all in front of me. All right, so let my guest introduce herself, and we will go from there.
Hello, I am Nita Whitaker. I am the author of a new book called When Your Hand is in the Lion's Mouth, The Life and Wisdom of a Man Named Green.
Whew, you left a lot out. I mean, seriously, so let me run through a few things.
All that stuff is for somebody else to say, not me. You do it.
Come on now. All right, so let me run through a few things real quick, just because you left a lot out, and there's a lot people need to know. You're a former ICU registered nurse, Miss Louisiana.
Yes.
Miss Louisiana. Okay, that's a big deal. You're an accomplished singer. You're an award-winning actress and an author. Here's one of my favorite parts. You are a favorite singer of legendary producer David Foster, who I think I watched the Netflix. Documentary about him. But anyway, we'll talk. Yeah, it was so good. All right, and because of that, you have sung some famous voices of our time. You sang original demos, and we got to get into this. We have a lot to unpack. But you sang original demos for Whitney Houston standards, and y'all got to buckle up. I Will Always Love You, I Have Nothing, and I Look to You. Goodness, I'm just going to stop right there because we got a lot to unpack. I told you in the pregame, we're not going to ask you to sing. So I'm not going to ask you to sing, but my goodness, you must have a voice. So let's just start there. What does it even mean to sing a demo? Or what I just said, for David Foster, goodness, he's got a demo. He's got a documentary on Netflix. He is recognized as. What does that even mean? Can you help us understand
that? David is one of the most brilliant artists of our time as far as pop music. He certainly has left his template of incredible music, great production. And I always say to David, he could get a good vocal out of a goat. He has a very specific technique. I was introduced to him through our mutual publicity. We were both represented by the same publicity firm, and my guy introduced me to him. And he took a shining to me and loved my voice. This was after I'd won Star Search. I was in the Hall of Fame. Oh, I hate to do all this.
No, I love it. Please, because people need to know who you are. It's amazing.
I know. It's a wonderful. I've had some wonderful successes, and there's still much more to do. But I was a Hall of Fame Grand Champion female vocal winner, and from that is how I met David, because I hired a publicist and they introduced me to David. So that Hall of Fame I'm the only one that's been undefeated, only female other than Sam Harris that was ever undefeated through my 13 rounds. So whatever that means. So meeting David was a treat, and I will tell you, I didn't know much about him when I met him. I just was meeting this guy, and I went completely overdressed. Like I went with pearls and a dress, Southern girl, high ticks on. I went into the studio. He had a broken leg, and I met him as he was recording his Christmas record, which is phenomenal if you haven't heard it. And he just said to me, "We're going to work together." And I said, "Okay." Didn't know what that meant. The first thing I worked on was I Have Nothing. He called me. I decided I was going to do a cruise ship. He called me on the cruise ship, and it was people were running like, Nita, David Foster's on the phone. I was like, who, what? So I was doing like a thing. And so that's how we began. And I did that demo, ended up doing a part in the movie. I'm singing I Have Nothing in the movie.
In The Bodyguard?
Huh? Mm-hmm.
In The Bodyguard? Is that, the film?
Yeah, the award ceremony. There's a girl that's singing I Have Nothing. That's me. So if you blink, you'll miss me, though, because I'm just there for a minute. It's like a 30-second version with Peter Matz doing the... Anyway, David has given me so many stages, and he trusted me with some of the songs that he was creating. I certainly am not a demo singer, but I felt like I was getting a chance to shape these songs with my interpretation of them. And that's what I've done with some of those songs. Some other ones there, I can name some others I've done for Josh Groban. I've done for Faith Hill. There's been a lot. But I call myself the surrogate mother to those songs. You know how you give birth to them? I didn't write them, but I put my voice on them and my interpretation of it, and then gave it to someone who would give it a greater life. That's not the way I planned it, but it's how it happened. So I feel kinship with those songs, and I'm so grateful that David saw that in me and, wanted to have me be a part of kind of the life of his music. Not all, but certainly a small part. And he's
unbelievable.
A dear, dear friend.
Unbelievable. So just so I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm fascinated by all this. So we always see clips or documentaries or movies where, some star gets in a car and they pop in a tape and it plays this song, and then the star says, "Yeah, I want that song." Is your voice the one that? So let's just say, I'm not sure if that's true or not. Let's just say that Whitney Houston, at some point, somebody popped in a tape, pushed play, and it was your voice singing those songs. And Whitney Houston apparently, or someone said, "I want that song on my next album," or they said, like "Does that? How's that work?"
It can be that way, or what happened with me was, the song was specifically written for her because she was doing the movie. So David's ex-wife, Linda Thompson, wrote the lyric. David did the music. They called me and said, "We've got this song. We want to show Whitney how it goes." So I worked with David and Kevin Costner and Linda. They had just written it, and they were teaching it to me as they were, and they still had some stuff they hadn't worked out. And I went over, this is so many, I'm just dropping names. It's just crazy, but I'm not doing it to impress. I'm just kind of sharing.
No, it's incredible. Incredible.
They said, "Come over to Alan Thicke's house, God rest his soul." And we were at Alan Thicke's house, and I'm in the middle of this thinking with my then toddler thinking, how am I here? But this is so groovy because what I know is what my dad taught me in the book is people are people, right? And so these people walked in. Of course, they're gorgeous. They're tan. They've got their things on. They've just played tennis. There's, their sun tossed. And I'm thinking, okay, how am I here? But I'm here.
Wow.
And I'm going to use this thing. That's what they call me for, this thing and this thing, my heart. So I don't know how to do anything 50%. So we were learning it, and Kevin was timing in, try this. I must have sang parts of the song 50 times. I mean, just as they they'd just written it and they were figuring it out. Then the next step was to go into the studio. But this song, to answer your question, was specifically for Whitney, as is I Will Always Love You. It was specifically written for her. But every singer needs a roadmap.
Right.
And then they can add their own thing in. But, I laid the roadmap. I caressed the song and added my thing in. And then they said, this is something we want you to do. So then after that, they had me come back in with the director, Mick Jackson, to Warner Brothers Studios. I think it was Warner. And they had me sing a whole different lyric that they wanted to try. That lyric didn't work. The original lyric was the one that was recorded. And I Will Always Love You was not quite as detailed because that was already a song written by Dolly Parton, but it was for the movie. They were going to do it. And that a cappella part, when I did the demo with David, he had music laid under it. And it was later that, I'm sure you've heard the story, that Clive said, I want the first part with no music. So that changed. I didn't record it without any music. It had music laid under that first part, If I Should Stay. I would own that part. Yeah. So
no, go ahead. You sing. I'll go ahead.
No. I was just kind of singing that little section. So, some of the songs that I've done have specifically been written. Now, when I did with Walter, I Look to You, again, R. Kelly and whatever he has become.
Right.
Had written that song specifically for Whitney, right? Many years ago, and it got to her, and it wasn't for a movie project. It was just for one of her record projects. So Walter, what was Walter's name? It just went out of my head. Anyway, he just produced the Grammys. Anyway, he was the producer on that one, and he called me in and he said, I need you to sing this song straight. Don't riff, don't do anything. Just, some people are riffalicious. I don't sing like that. I believe, and it's very impressive, but I believe in bending a note for a reason. I think you give people the melody, and if you bend a note, then it really means something. But some people can do all those vocal gymnastics and that's great. I'm like, yes, do that. That is not me. But what I know how to do and what I've learned how to do in my career is I know how to give you the story of the song. That's what I do. So I think that's why I've worked in that area, because it's important to me in my acting training. Every song is a story. So I would say the song as a monologue. And then so then I could really caress parts of the song and make it, have the vulnerability, have the storytelling component, and be able to still tell it within the framework of the music and the lyrics that I was given.
So I know we just went through a lot, and it has nothing to do with your book. And so thank you so much for taking us through that, because I am a music lover. Well, I'm a lyric lover.
There's not a finer musician. David can play a piano. David can produce. He's brilliant, and I'm so happy that I can say he's my friend beyond. We don't work together as much these days, but we've had 20 plus years that we have worked together, and I could pick up the phone right now and call him. He's so dear to he loves us. Everybody moves on with their life, and he and I have had some wonderful, amazing musical experiences.
I wanted the audience to know who I'm speaking with, because I'm so honored. As you said, I Will Always Love You was written by Dolly Parton, or sung by produced. It was original by Dolly Parton. Whitney obviously took that to the next level. But I will tell you, my favorite Whitney Houston song, and I'm a child of the 80s, my favorite Whitney Houston song is I Have Nothing. It leaves me weak. Like, it's just... it's such an incredible song. So to know that I get to speak to, and people that are listening to our interview today are hearing the voice that introduced that to Whitney Houston for the movie, I'm so honored right now. Like, seriously, I got chill bumps. I'm so honored. And I know that's not what we got on today, but I just wanted to make sure we laid some groundwork for everybody so they understand who we're hearing and who I'm talking to today. I just want you to know I Have Nothing is one of the most amazing songs I've ever heard. It is my favorite. And I have a rule that people have listened to the podcast know. I don't like American Idol and all these shows, because if I watch them, I have one rule, and that is you don't sing Freddie Mercury and you don't sing Whitney Houston, because there's nobody that can be those two people.
Everybody's always trying. It's like, stop it already.
They're trying it. And as soon as you did it, I'm turning it off, because at the end of the day, there's only one Freddie Mercury and there's only one Whitney Houston, and you better not try. But I have a feeling you must be up there. You must be able, because if it's sold Whitney on those songs. So anyway, I know that's not what you got on today, but I just wanted everybody to know, wow, I'm just so honored to speak to you today. I truly am. What an incredible life you've had and opportunities you've had in your life. That being said, let's talk about the book. So you have a new book.
Onward.
Let's talk about the book. So the book is When Your Hand is in the Lion's Mouth, The Life of and Wisdom of a Man. Can you talk about your book a little bit?
My book is a father-daughter memoir about the life of my father and the lessons that his life taught me. It is an exploration of his childhood in the early America in North Louisiana in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. It is a sharing of universal life lessons and truths and things that help us all navigate life a little bit better. I've always known that my dad was different than most, different in a way, not better, but just that I had a great dad. And when I say a great dad, I mean a dad that managed to work so many jobs, but still be present and give us piggyback rides and save up enough money to take us little brown kids on a vacation every summer, even if it was just to Dallas, Texas. We went somewhere because they wanted us to see the world beyond our community. Wow. My mom and dad were such a pair. They also instilled so much simple goodness by how they lived. Because what I know is, more than anything we say, children watch what we do. So I watched what they did, and I watched how they lived their lives, and it was not accidental. They made choices, and they chose a kind of a divine path, not perfection. This is not perfection. He's still a human. But I so appreciated all the things, and I found myself, when someone would ask me something, I was saying something my dad said. Well, my dad said, and my dad said,
right.
And I thought, I need to share these. Also, my dad is the last living of 19 of his family. He is the only one living. He's buried 18 siblings plus his parents and his wife, my mom. And he just comes with so much wisdom and kindness. There's no bitterness in him at all for anything that he experienced. He's a man of great faith, and I feel like I hit the jackpot when I got him from dad. His name is Green. He is as unique as his name. He was named after his paternal grandfather that he never met. But his name is unique, and it is, as Kermit the Frog says, can be big like a mountain or tall like a tree, is the color of spring. My dad is all of that. And I don't know if that was intentional, but it's no accident that that's his name. So I wanted to share him with all of you, because I think he has some things to teach us from the way he lived his life that we can all learn from.
And he is 96, correct?
He's 96 and going.
96.
And use a walker, which is, he's upright. The mind, everything. He still takes care of himself. we're just really blessed.
And you said he's one of 19 children?
Yes, 19.
19 children.
19.
Unbelievable.
They were farmers, and so my grandfather and grandmother had 11 together, but my grandfather had 8. They were always taught there were no halves and wholes. They were just sisters and brothers. So my grandmother, I think the mother, one lady had 4. This was before he met my grandmother. Another lady had 4, and one of those ladies was ill and said, "I'm not going to make it. Would you take my children?" And my grandmother took those 4 in. So there were 15 children at one point in the house. They had a nice sized house. They had 2 or 3 beds in a room. They would sleep 2 or 3 to a bed. That's how they did it. but it was what they knew, and it was full of love. Their home was a safe place, and it was a place of well-being. And so my grandfather apparently was a great dad, from everything I've heard from all of my uncles and my aunts. And he gave me a great dad. How about that?
How about that, right?
Yeah.
I recently read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, and I just loved his storytelling. But what the thing that captured me so much, and I have to believe this is true, I assume in this book, we don't raise our children the way we used to, the way I was raised. And reading Matthew, I think Matthew and I don't know how old he is. We're close, I would assume, in the same age, because his stories told a story of the way he was raised, which was very different than even my wife and I raise our children. Sure. I assume at 96, your father has imparted wisdom into you. At 96, he's probably seen so much change and so much in how we're even raising our children. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My father was born into a time of the Jim Crow South, and it just wasn't in the South, but it was targeted discrimination. It was a racial caste system that was legalized in this country, as you know. And he was born with that lion, how to navigate that so that you can live. Violence was used as a method of social control. That's what, segregation, it would promote segregation and all of those things. That's the life my dad was born into. They had to stay in their place. And it's certainly not the world I was born into, but how he navigated that and situations in the book that I talk about, with him being in certain situations and having to figure out how to still feel like he was a man. Like the word boy used to be used in a very negative way, the N word and the word boy. And my father had made a decision early on that, and this is one of the chapters in the book, that if someone called him boy, he would just not acknowledge that they were even speaking to him. He would just keep doing what he was doing, so he didn't say anything. Civil disobedience in a very quiet way. So this particular guy, the overseer, because they went from being landowners, having their land pretty much pulled from under them, to being sharecroppers. So for 10 years, of my dad's life, they were self-sufficient. My grandfather bought 80 acres, and oil was found on the land. And after 6 years, the hugest oil well there was back in the day. My grandfather had 2 cars. Come on, a black man with 2 cars back in the 19th. Come on, that was something else. Right. And they still had a buggy. And this caste system was in place. Is don't know your place, don't get too uppity. So these illicit drillers came and drilled horizontally and tapped the Whitaker well, and salt started to come up out of their well, which killed the land, killed the crops. So they couldn't stay on that land that they had been self-sufficient on for so long. And so they became sharecroppers. So my dad went from this idyllic life of, they had their own cotton, they raised their own crop, and they were all farmers, to working for someone else and giving them half of whatever they made. They call it half hand. There's so much I didn't know about that time, but my dad explained to me. And they kind of relegate you. These are the jobs you can do. So they were all farmers. But because it was all they knew there was something more, but they learned how to revel in that. And they had this big, beautiful family that were devoted to each other. And that's the thing that I would like to see more in families today, is this devotion to family. There's always going to be someone in the family who may have a challenge or an issue or something, and to love each other through that, and not to just cast them aside, or, I think that's so important, and to just kind of have the family be the safe place. And that's what my dad experienced, even when they had to. Daddy said they cried for 2 weeks when they had to leave that sweet little town and had to go and be sharecroppers.
My goodness.
But it could have made him bitter. And I say this in the book, but it made him better. Because he was watching, he was next to the youngest. And so he was watching his older siblings, how they handled things, how his parents managed this large, vibrant family. He was absorbing all of that. Because our children watch what we do, right? So
Right.
My dad was that knee baby. They called knee baby boy. Are you from the South? You know, they call it baby boy, knee baby boy. He was this next to and they say that because they like to stay on the knee. They say, I don't know. It's just an old saying. But he was internalizing and watching as his siblings were navigating their way. And of course, that always informed how he was going to make it through. So you can have siblings in the same family, and you probably know this, and you can have a situation and there'll be two different interpretations of what happened based on how each one of them perceived it. So I've had a chance to listen to some of my uncles and aunts talk about things from the past and hear my dad's point of view, and each one of them has their own. But I think my dad had this jubilant spirit at the heart of him that always buoyed whatever was going on in the outside world. He was smart. He had to know how to navigate to get through that time where the black man had no voice, none. They can take you out and kill you, nothing would be done. And we're looking at the times we're in now. It's just kind of scary that that in any way, that if anyone thinks that that was ever right, that we need to really look at our hearts and what we're. I mean, you are my brother. That's what I see when I see you. I don't see anything else. We need to get back to valuing each other. And this color of the skin is just a beauty mark. I came here in a brown box. You came here in a peach one, period. We're all the same. God made all of us. That's what my daddy showed me. That's what he taught me. And that's what I want people to, it's one thing for people to take away. People are just people. Yeah. We're not divided by color or politics. It's these ideas that we are somehow supposed to be separate. It's not. We're supposed to be one people, God's people, one nation under God. Is that what it says? Okay, I'm getting political, but let's not go there.
No, I don't think so at all. I think we live in a media world where they're controlling the narrative, and we have to be so careful to understand what we're consuming, because if our Twitter feed is absolutely, if our Twitter feed or Instagram feed or TikTok feed or Facebook feed is shaped in such a way, then that's our view. And there's such a bigger lens, and we have to really have a bigger lens. I love something that I is in my notes. It said, when facing hurdles, her father would tell your kids and yourself to be accountable, giving it your all, whether it's 2 or 2,000 people watching. One of my favorite quotes, I think, is by Max Lucado, and he said, even the conductor has to turn his back on the audience to conduct the orchestra. And I think there comes time in our life. That's when I read that. That's what it reminded me of, is there's times when, as it says, whether it's 2 or 2,000, if we know our audience, if we know who our people, our village, our tribe, whatever it might be, is, we got to turn our back on the crowd to orchestrate, you know what I mean, or be a part of our team. That's what I saw when I saw that message. So and it says that giving it your all, whether it's 2 or 2,000, what did that speak to you?
I had a couple of instances. My dad has always been my consistent counsel. If I had an issue, a question, a problem, I would call my dad. I'm going to call my dad. If I had some joyful experience or whatever, I'd call my dad. He and mother, I lost mother as a teenager. So my dad was there through all those college years and beyond, and even when I became a mom myself. So my dad was right. He was there for the birth of my second daughter. He was there. I'm not going to say this. He was on the freeway 5 cars behind OJ, so he missed the actual birth, but he got their attendance. He was literally, when they did the pan back, Dad's car was 5 cars behind the slow chase. I was like, I'm having a baby. Can you let him pass?
Come on, wait. Let's just press pause really quick. So your dad was on the freeway when OJ was on the run.
The freeway, the same. I went into labor. He was coming. Honest to goodness. I said, Dad,
shut this thing down right now. What are we talking?
I'm not going to have any more, so you might want to come. And he was on the freeway, 5 cars behind them.
Come on.
Trying to get to the hospital to see this.
That is not in my notes. Nita, that is not in my notes. My goodness, that should have been the lead story.
I know. That's going to be in the next book. But
I'm sorry.
But it's just, I was like, I cannot, because we started watching it, and I was like, I think I'm in labor. And I was watching it, I'm thinking, and they pulled back, and I said, oh, God.
It's my dad's car. Come on.
And I'm in labor. Anyway, that's just a side story. That's not in the book.
Seriously.
But I went off on a tangent. Forgot what I said.
That's so good. So welcome to Unscripted.
Oh gosh.
Goodness.
Okay, tell me your question again, because it left me.
Tour 2000.
Right. Okay. So,
whether it's Tour 2000.
My dad, my constant counsel. Okay. Again, he was coming to be there because he wanted to see that birth, but he always gave me some wonderful advice. I was in nursing school, and I had this teacher that planted a seed in me also. She gave me a C in a class, and she said to me, "You made an A, but I'm going to give you a C because I think you do your work best when you think someone's watching." I said, I was completely incensed by that. I was like, what?
Right.
What do you mean? And I was upset. I did not think she was right. I did not think she had that correct about me. But it made me think, am I doing that? Because sometimes things are unconscious that we're doing. Fast forward in the book, I had come to LA to try to start my singing career. I didn't know anybody in the singing career. I knew that I wanted to do it. I had a job as an ICU nurse, so I knew I could support myself, but I didn't know how to get in. I just knew that I wanted in. I knew I wanted to sing. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I was working.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.
And I got an agent, and things kind of started to move. But a friend that I made said, come to my shows and I'll introduce you to my crowd. And he was very popular. So I would go to his shows and he would stop, and one song he'd hand me the mic and I'd sing a little bit, and he'd hand the mic to someone else. This is of course pre-COVID, way before COVID. And so I kind of thought, okay, now it's my turn to do my show. I've been there about a year. I'm going to do my show. And I practice and I sent out my flyers, and at that point you were mailing everything. And I had always played to a full house. In Louisiana, I was huge in Shreveport because, I was the girl, and I'd always played to whenever the house was packed. Pageants were always packed. And I go to this show, and I have on one of my pageant gowns, and I have got my three-piece, my trio. They're there and they're playing the intro. And they said we're going to hold the curtain. We're going to hold it because it was a supper club. We're going to hold for 15 minutes until let a few more people come. And they had a little mini spot, and it was an L-shaped club, and you'd walk from the longest part of the L from the back, from like a little dressing room, and come through, and the stage and the musician were at the apex of the L. And so I come out, and I'm a little blinded by the light, so I can't see who's sitting. But I'd sung there a bunch of times with my friend, Tony. He introduced me to his audience, and I'd gained a little following. And when I turned around and saw there were 6 people. Now, it was one of the coldest nights on record at the time. It was a February night. It was cold for LA. 6 people were there. I was so upset by that it took my throat. I was like, and you know how that imposter thing walks up, that self-doubt? I'm not really that good. People don't really want to hear me. All of that was playing. So my first 3 songs were I don't even know if I was in my head, like, nobody came. I must not be good. Nobody came. I must not be good. So I get through the show, and my then boyfriend, who became my husband, Don LaFontaine, said, well, honey, it wasn't your best. That was his way of being kind.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wait to get home. I called my dad. I said, Dad, I felt awful. I didn't sing my best. He said, nobody came. How did you, because he had a singing group for 21 years, a gospel singing group. I said, how did you guys perform when there was 2-3 people there? And he said that to me. Well, baby, you have to do your best because you don't know who's watching, and those that you may do something in that will change somebody's life. So always do your best, whether it's 2 or 2,000.
Absolutely.
So fast forward when I was on tour with Andrea Bocelli, and I'm standing in front of an audience of 40,000. I remember I wasn't far from that little girl at that club that thought I wasn't good enough. And those words still ring in my ear, whether it's 2 or 40,000. Always do your best.
Right.
And by doing your best, I had one teacher that said, just keep doing the work and you will become undeniable. And so I just kept doing the work from that little club with nobody. I just kept doing the work. And work kept finding me, thank goodness. So here I am.
And you have an amazing resume. We've covered much of it here, and you've even brought up more than I didn't even know about. So what an unbelievable story you have in a life. And it sounds like your father also has an unbelievable life, which is what leads to the book. I'm so excited to read this book. So let's talk about the logistics of the book. Where do we get it? How do we get it? When is it available? All those kind of things.
It is available right now on Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. We have ebook, audiobook, and paperback. You can probably find it in a library, and on Kobo, I think it's available there. I think that we want to make it easier for people to get to be able to find the book. It is available. It was released on Father's Day, which is what I want to do as a tribute to my dad. And it was also happened to coalesce with Juneteenth, which is a celebration of the emancipation of the institution of slavery. But more than that, I think it is to celebrate the resilience of the Black family, of Black culture, Black life in America, even though there had been a caste system put in place, that they were still a people that were able to rise. And I'm so proud of their resilience. I'm so proud of anyone, of the Native American, the Latino, of any group of people, the Irish, who were also who were able to rise against unbelievable odds, the lion's mouths, as it were, and to still thrive and survive. So I am part of that. I'm very proud of my father. I love him so much. It's just, I tell him that I can't hug him enough. I can't say I love you enough because of who you are and what you gave me. You gave me a great childhood. You gave me a place of safety in our home. He was present, available, still is. I love that I can pick up the phone and call my dad and say, hey, Dad, I just called to say I love you. Hey, baby, how you doing? It's everything. And my children have such a loving relationship with him. My family, my sisters, my brother. So I just feel that the stories that my father taught me were too rich to keep to myself. That old gospel song, I said I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it to myself. I had to tell. So I had to. His life is rich. It's rich with, I say this in the book, it's not about financial success. My dad always said that doesn't make you a better person or doesn't make you a man. What makes you a man is, how you love your family, close to God.
Absolutely.
What are you doing to help somebody else? That's how you measure yourself. And he lived that. It wasn't something I had to pull out of him. I just watched him live his life. So.
Wow. I cannot wait to read this book because I think we are now I'm going to go on a little rant. I think if we discount the education and lessons and things from our elders, then we are so off track.
We'll lose something.
Again, there's so many things, there's so many social media things. There's so many places, the media, there's all these things distracting us. And I'm afraid if we listen to those, that is what will raise our children. That is what will raise even us. It will change and form and it will make our opinions what they will be. And if we soften or mute the voices of the past, wow, are we missing it? Because those voices are the shoulders that we stand on today.
Amen.
And I love that you've done this book for your dad in his honor. And I honestly can't wait to read it because I think I will learn so much from it. I do. I value that so much. If we mute the voices of our past, boy, we're really missing out. We really
I believe
are.
that is a really important point you're bringing up, that we learn so much from our past. Some people want to take things, and listen, America has a tainted history. Almost every country does. But I do think that it's important. You have to understand the past so that you understand the reverberation into the future that it has.
100%.
And learning from our elders and what they experience and what they learn. If we don't get those stories, and that's why I think it's important for every family. You don't have to write a book about it, but make sure you share and that you get them, because once that voice is gone, you don't have those stories anymore.
Right.
So I think it's important for families to write down and pass along stories from their ancestors, because every life matters. Every person is important to somebody. And to value that is so important. I had another thought. You said, well, I'll move on to the next thought, but I do believe that, this is my thought, here it is. It is important also in this culture, in this sort of media swirl that we live in, that's constantly at you all the time, 24 hours 7, it's in your hand, it's on your device, it's on your computer, it's on your TV, it's just nonstop, is that we do see there's different pictures of what a Black father looks like. We don't see that enough. We see stereotypical things, but it's not a lot in our media. You don't see, we had a Bill Cosby, and then that was kind of, and then, so what do if people are only looking at TV, if they don't have it in their house, if they don't have a great dad like I had, where do they find it? Where do they see it? Maybe a good teacher at school. Maybe there's somebody in their church or their local Y or Boys and Girls Club. We need to hear more stories of good men doing good things, and particularly Black men.
Yes.
And I just think that was one of the other reasons that I wanted to share my dad, because I in acting class, I would hear these stories. So many people were broken by their fathers. The fathers did something that just broke their spirit, and they were still recovering from it, or broken homes. And that could happen to any of us. So what do you do if you don't get a great father? What if you're given just, someone who has a lot of issues, and they bring their issues and they dump them in the family, and there's a lot of dysfunction? What do? Well, you seek out that good person, that teacher, that whoever that will be for you, and you watch what they do. Learn from that and not from the ugly that you're witnessing, because there's always going to be someone put in your life to show you the way, to show you the light. I had that in my home. Not everybody gets that. And I always knew it was a blessing. So I want to encourage people to write down the stories of your ancestors. Tell the stories about good men doing good things, of parenting, because you can be a father, but you're a daddy when you show up to wipe the ass. Can I just say that? When you are there, you know what I'm saying? You've got to be there on the daily. You can't be a weekend dad showing up with the gifts. You've got to be in there doing the work of, let me help you with your homework. Let me brush your hair. My dad braided my hair. Let me go catch balls outside. You've got to be present. That's when you become a daddy. Anybody can be a father. There's enough sperm donors around the world, but we need daddies. Because it's important to have the balance. And if you didn't get that good daddy, find someone in your community that is doing the stuff that you wish your dad was doing, and learn from them. Take from them. Read my book. And let's all live with more kindness to each other. It's so important. Kindness is so important. My dad always had that thread through his life. I'm so happy I got to witness that. And it informed who I am. In a big way.
I hope to shake his hand one day, because he's raised an amazing young lady that I've received, had the opportunity to speak to today. And I do think you're correct. I think, TV in general makes the dad role every dad on every sitcom is an idiot. I don't know how else to say it. Welcome to Unscripted. They make him this idiot that just shows up and, he's not engaged and blah, blah, blah. But, and especially in the culture that we're in, I think there's a stereotype that exists that's not true. I know many men, many dads of all races, all colors, all, they are intentional.
Yes.
They're doing the work. But unfortunately, as we've said, the media, wants to portray an idiot dad who's not engaged, and especially in certain, cultures and communities. And that's not true. It's not true. But if we allow that to change, if we allow that to be our lens, then that is what we think. And I don't think it's fair, because I think there's many people like your father who for 96 years has been a pillar. And clearly in this interview, hopefully everybody's realized, I have, that he's had an amazing impact on your life. And what a better testimony that he can leave. That's the legacy that he will leave. And someday I hope to shake his hand. And just, he's done an amazing job raising you. It's incredible. And your life has been incredible. One more thing I want to mention before we get off. There's, you also have a nonprofit or are connected with a nonprofit. Is that correct? Where you champion literacy through your books. What is that link? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's called inaworldwithbooks.org. I was married. I was widowed. Don LaFontaine was my husband, the father of my children, and we were married for 20 years. He loved books. He loved books. He could not get enough. He would read 300 books a year. I am not making that number up. The library, you can see here, most of these are his books. But after he passed in 2008, my dad was the one, of course, I called, because he had lived through a similar thing, losing our mom. And he really was my foundational person to go to. I was awakened in the middle of the night. There were a lot of things and tributes to Don, because he was such a great voiceover guy. You probably have heard of his work. But I wanted to do something to honor him. We created a voiceover lab that's at the Screen Actors Guild Foundation, where people can come and learn for free, because Don was all about teaching and giving. He was just like a generous spirit, much like my dad. And this idea woke me up. It's like, you've got to give books. Now, let me marry that with my mom, who, is deceased. She was a librarian. And one of the things she did, she was on the bookmobile when they had bookmobiles before schools had.
I remember those. Absolutely.
My mother would take that bookmobile to have the driver drive her out into the rural area and go house to house and give books.
Wow.
That never, I meet people to this day say, your mother was the book lady. So I woke up with this idea in the middle of the night, and I thought, they said, you have to do this work. I was like, really? Because I'm trying to raise 2 kids by myself. This is just what you really want me to do right now? But I began on this journey of finding a way to get in the cracks and give books to kids in shelters, kids at homes with domestic violence, to just try to schools that were underserved, didn't have libraries or media centers, and kids, everybody can't go to Barnes and Nobles or Amazon to buy a book. They have to go to their library. And I want to be able to give these kids new books that they could keep, that they could own it. There's something about ownership. So I started this nonprofit. We've given 8,500 children 18,000 books since I started in 2013. We're still doing more work. And In a World with Books was a phrase that Don wrote as a writer before he became a voiceover guy. He created that phrase, which he announced 1,000 times. And that's what In a World with Books comes from. But both of it is to honor my mom and Don in the way of doing something that they love. They loved books. They loved making sure people could read. And so it was my way of carrying forth, paying it forward, something that they loved. So I started it, and I have a beautiful board, and it has been some of the most gratifying work when you hand a kid a book and they hug it. This one little boy, I was asking kids, I was at a school in Greensboro, Georgia. We're giving 900 books. And this little boy, I said, why do we read? The kids say, oh, so you can be smart, so you can pass your test. And I said, well, how about for fun? How about a book can be your friend? And the little boy raised his hand. He said, I'm getting emotional saying it, what if you don't have a friend? And I said, that's why we're here. And I gave him a book, and I'm emotional now. And he just hugged it. I mean, that's everything.
Right.
There's a great saying that says, at the end of my life, it won't matter the size of my house, what kind of car I drove, or the size of my bank account. But what will matter is that I made the difference in the life of a child.
Absolutely.
And so when I started the nonprofit, I had that in mind. I had Don in mind. When he was a little boy, they were poor. He would memorize the encyclopedia because his mom was a waitress. That was the best that they could do. He would memorize books. And then my mom giving books. So to give these kids books, for me, is like a little piece I'm sending up to heaven, I hope. Yeah. But it is a work that I hope will outlive me. You know, I want my children to carry it on. I'm crying now.
No, it's fine.
I want.
That's your passion. It's your passion.
It is. It may not ring a bell with every child, but if you just reach one, that it turns on a light and they can learn something, or they can expand their imagination, that they can have this book and they can go back to it, and it can make them feel safe in a place maybe that isn't safe. It's a gift to me, and I hope it is to the other kids. So,
what a wonderful legacy! Absolutely,
it's a wonderful. Like I said, it's something that I want to do more of. We're trying to find a way to make a bigger impact. Sometimes we will give 100 books here or 200 books here, and it seems like it's not enough. But I know it is making a difference. But I want to find a way to be. We want to find a way to be more impactful. So our donation. Everybody's volunteer. Nobody gets paid. We don't make any money. Everything that we get, we have a partnership with Scholastics and another book company called Smith Gibbs. They give us books. We send them to kids, and it fills my heart. It really fills my heart.
And you can see there's a bookshelf behind me. If you're anybody on video, if you're not watching on video on podcast, understand there's a bookshelf behind me, and there's books I was not a good student, as most people know. I was not a reader. I was not good in school, but the books that I have read have shaped me. And I just saw a meme, and I'm going to destroy this thing, whatever the quote was, but it said something along the lines of, if his bookshelf is smaller than his TV, then he ain't for you, or something like that. I don't know. I saw it like 4 times this week, and I was like, okay, that's probably true. Like, and I think it is true. Like, let's make sure, and I know old books are going away because we got ebooks and we got audiobooks and we have all these different technologies. But at the end of the day, a good old book in your hand that you highlight and fold the corners on, and you just wear out. I've got a few that are absolute staples in my life, and authors like Max Lucado and Tony Dungy and others that have absolutely changed my entire scope in life. And again, I was not a good student. I was not a reader, but I have become one. And so
that's
love
the
what you're doing.
Thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's a study, there's a statistic that says prisons, this is really wild. Prisons determine how many beds they will create by how many students can read by the 4th grade. That is an actual, it's on our website.
Come on.
We want to get the kids reading early, or light the fire early, so that they are reading, not learning from prison. Now, whenever you learn to read, you learn. Some people are later coming to a love of it because there's so much reading that's required just to get through school, and they don't ever imagine reading for fun as something that they can do. I was a reader for information. I had this mom as a librarian, so I read a lot growing up. Then when I got into college, it was just information. I didn't read anything for fun. And then when I got married, Donnie was such a reader, and he was always reading, and I was just reading magazines, just reading fluff stuff, And he said, I want you to try this book. It was a Sidney Sheldon book. It was a fiction. I didn't read. I like historical fiction. And I read, and I could not put it down. And that started me reading again, because I was a big reader when I was a little kid. I was an early reader, reading at 3 or I don't know. My daughter was the same. But I learned the love of reading later again that I had lost from my young years. So it's important to get the kids reading early. And if not, it's just if they have access to books, if they can get a book, is important. So I'm glad that you're reading it. There's something about words on a page that gets in differently than it coming in auditorially. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the word, auditorially.
Right.
But I'm
no, I agree. I'm actually writing my own book right now, which has been very therapeutic for me. It is a bit of a memoir. That's not a plug. But I have to tell you the story, and it's in that book. My mom, because you honored your dad. Let me honor my mom for 1 second, and then I really want to go through all the links again so everybody doesn't miss them. You've been so generous with your time. My mom, I was not a good student, as I've said. I was not engaged at all. And this is back in the old, I remember my mom saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. Every day when you come home, we're going to read the comics. And so my mom would sit me down on the couch and we would read Ziggy and Sad Sack and all these other, I don't even remember what else, but we would read the comics in the back of the newspaper. And again, I'm old, so this is how dated it is. But what she did was she ignited my love for reading. And I would have to read it out loud, and she would help me correct words I didn't understand. So to your point, I think I'm trying not to get choked up, because that, again, doesn't mean I was a great student the rest of my life. It wasn't. But what she did help me understand was reading and words, because I couldn't read. And so
you probably had
because of that
learning challenge. You may have had
I did.
challenge.
In today's world, I would have been labeled a lot of things: ADD, ADHD, all blah, blah, blah. And that's all. I'm not discounting any of those things. In that time frame, those things did not exist. And so my mom took the time for me to sit down and read comics. And because of that, now I read books. So anyway, that was to honor my mom. Yeah,
I want to add to what you said. Congrats to you having a great, brilliant mom, because she met
wonderful.
you where you were. And that's the job of parenting, is to meet each child where they are. I had two different learners in my house. I was a different learner than my other siblings. Your mother knew how to reach you where you were.
Right.
And she was very smart to do so. And so gave you what you needed to, because we could. School can make you feel like a failure if you're not keeping up with everybody at this level, but there are all kinds of minds. It doesn't mean you weren't smart. It doesn't mean you weren't smart. There's this push for everybody's child to be the number one, to be the best. How about average? Average is okay. Average is okay. Right. But you got to meet your kid where they are, and your mother did that, and I want to give her a hug. That's a great mommy.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can give her a hug when we all get to heaven. And I can't wait to shake your dad's hand, hopefully this side of heaven. But if not, then we'll all get together one day. That'll be a great, I'll tell you, the four of us will have to sit down somewhere and talk. That'll be amazing. All right. So let's run through all the links again. You've been so wonderful. I'm telling you, they said, the email they sent me said, you're going to love Nita. And I was like, okay, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to interview her. I didn't even know, come on, Miss Louisiana, singing Whitney Houston, dad's on the freeway with OJ. Come on, you have lived. I can't wait to read your book. But in the meantime, the memoir to your dad is When Your Hand is in the Lion's Mouth, The Life and Wisdom of a Man. Where can we find it one more time?
Green. The Life and Wisdom of a Man named Green.
Man named Green. Okay, thank you so much. And we can find that where?
Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Audiobook is great. I want to mention that because my dad is a part of the book. He's also singing, and there's a special bonus chapter, and then there's an interview where I'm talking and the guy pushed the button, and we got some great stuff.
Oh, I can't wait.
So the audiobook is a delight, because I wanted his voice to be a part of this, as it is in the book, but you could hear it. He has a certain way of speaking, like the Southern county statesman with a little preacher and a hint of a lilt of a Southern accent. It's just, it's a delight to hear him right now, how he sounds. His voice is rich and full, and it's very special. It was great to do part of the book with him. So, but audiobook, ebook, print, Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble.
Is there a website? Do you have a website?
Yeah, the website is NitaWhitaker.com.
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 And then the website for what we just shared was the nonprofit. It's inaworldwithbooks.org. Is that correct?
Correct.
Awesome.
In a World with Books. Remember, NORO. Remember that.
That's right. I can tell you right now, I can't wait to hug on your dad's neck. I can't. That's the way I'm wired. I can't wait to hug on your dad's neck, and hopefully we all meet sometime.
Yes.
But
Wouldn't that be lovely?
he's done an amazing job. Your life is a reflection of his, and I'm so glad that you've honored him. That's why I'm writing mine, is because I want to, as you said, I want to leave that legacy for my kids. We can tell stories around the fire pit all day long, but I need to leave something in written form for them for when I'm gone, wherever that may be, whether it's tomorrow or 10 years from now or 100 years from now. I don't know. But your dad clearly left his mark with you, and you are amazing. And I'm so thankful for our time today. I really am.
Thank you. I am honored. It has been a treat for me to talk with you. I feel your heart through the screen. I see that your mother raised you with a lot of kindness, and I love to see that. And we meet each other right in the middle with kindness. And that's kind of what we're supposed to do. And I have enjoyed my time with you. Thank you for allowing me this platform and for letting your listeners and viewers know about my book. And thank you very much.
Well, we'll do this again. I mean, if you have time, I'd love to do a whole nother episode because we got a lot more to talk about. I still want to talk about singing for Whitney and everything else. But no, thank you so much. You're the best, and I look forward to meeting you in real life sometime. And like I said, hugging on your dad's neck. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he would love that, and I would too. Thank you, and be well, stay safe, and God bless.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Unscripted Podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll see you next time on Unscripted with Aaron Conrad.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.